Hey everybody, welcome to this achievement guide for Thrillville Off the Rails on the Xbox Series X. Today we are completing the achievement Lunar Lunatic, which requires you to complete Event Horizon 2 on hard difficulty. Now before we do get started on this achievement, I would like to mention that this game is available with Xbox Live Games with Gold, so get it for free while it is available to you during the month of July 2022. Alright, now with that being said, let's get started with completing this achievement. To begin, I would like to go ahead and give you just a few tips before we get started. So of course, we're going to head into Party Play and start up Event Horizon 2. We're going to set it to hard difficulty and we need to play through all 3 of the levels to unlock this achievement. When it comes to practicing, I'd highly recommend you play each level individually, but it's certainly up to you on how you want to approach sort of training yourself for this achievement. Alright, now let's take a look at the first of 2 ship options that I would recommend. Personally, Storm Conductor and Solar Dominion, the first 2 ship options are my personal preference as they fit my playstyle, but it's certainly up to you on which ship you want to take. However, these are definitely very effective. You can see the Storm Conductor, it has a beam shot and it has a sort of tracer shot. The tracer shot is normally what I tended to use, however the beam shot is very useful, especially when you build up your gun meter. You can see it in the top left over there. As you collect these cells or batteries or whatever those are, you then sort of get a stronger and stronger weapon. Once it reaches around 75%, you get the max stat or max capabilities of that weapon. Here is a clip of it sort of all decked out as strong as possible. Both of them sort of have homing abilities since it is lightning, and it is really effective in clearing out areas around you. However, I found it wasn't extremely useful for getting enemies that were on the opposite edge of the screen, opposite side of the screen even. It was just not as reliable as I'd hoped it would be, especially when it comes to the later levels. It is very effective on the 3rd level. However, the first 2 levels, I did not enjoy using this ship just because it didn't feel like it packed enough punch and it didn't clear out the enemies as fast as I wanted it to. The ship that actually did that for me was the Solar Dominion, so let's actually talk about that ship's weapons. Alright, so when it comes to the Solar Dominion, it has a rapid fire straight shot that is its regular shot, and then its alternate shot is a spread shot that acts as sort of a shotgun, I would say. Just like the Storm Conductor, it has levels to its power, and the final level is probably the most useful. It has a very powerful straight shot that acts as a sort of bomb that detonates at a certain distance or once it hits an enemy, which can be very useful for clearing out a large group of enemies or taking out enemies that are sort of at a distance but can be hit by the area of effect of that attack. And then the alternate shot is also extremely useful because it bounces around the entire screen multiple times until it hits an enemy. It even bounces off of enemies to hit other enemies, so it is just extremely useful for constantly attacking these enemies. If you see the clip that is happening right now, you can see I'm at the bottom of the screen and it goes straight up to the enemy that I am trying to attack right here. And it just works out so well for me because of it just bouncing across the screen, and as it hits the bottom of the screen it bounces up, and you can sort of see the value in this ship's shots. I wouldn't say that charging your beams would be very useful. Like if you see I'm trying to charge the beam with the X button, I found it to be very unuseful. Same as the super attack, so the beam or the flamethrower, the beam for the Storm Conductor and the flamethrower for the Solar Dominion. I didn't use them extremely often as it does drain your gun meter, and then you get weaker and weaker weapons the more that you use that super attack. So try to stay away from it unless you're in a dire situation or up against a boss, especially the final boss. You don't need to hold back too much as long as you're continuously doing damage. You'll see when we get to level 3, I went ham with the flamethrower right near the end to make sure I finish things up. Alright, now with all of that said, hopefully this information helps you make a decision on the Storm Conductor or the Solar Dominion. Personally, I went with the Solar Dominion, so that is what my gameplay is going to include. Now let's get started with level 1. Alright, so starting off level 1, I am going to sort of be here and there with the commentary. This is a long video, as you can probably tell, and it isn't very necessary for me to be here the entire time. I'm mainly going to focus on problem areas and things like bosses. So, you don't have to listen to my voice for too long, so don't worry about that. It is going to be a lot of gameplay that is going to sort of show you what you need to do rather than me telling you, because you guys are smart, you don't need me to do that. Anyways, right away, right off the bat, you can see I'm sort of trying to destroy as many enemies as possible, especially the small ones, so that way I'm going to be able to build up my gun meter and build up my score at the same time, what I want to do is ASAP, I want to max out my gun meter, so that way I have the most powerful weapons, and bam, I got it right there. So you really want to make sure that is your #1 priority of collecting these batteries or cells, whatever. I still don't know what to call them. You want to make sure that's your #1 priority when you start up, so that way you have the most powerful weapons and you can just hammer out all these kills really easily. And then as you're doing that, you want to make sure you're gaining as many points as possible. Getting the kills and collecting all these batteries / cells is going to do that for you. So it is a very smart idea for you to build up as many points as possible throughout the first level and subsequent levels. You want to make sure you're farming as many points as you can, because every 10,000 points you actually do get a life for yourself, which is extremely valuable because you can make mistakes like I just did right there. A tip for this mini boss right here is to stay at the bottom of the screen. If you do that, they cannot hit you. They can occasionally hit you, it turns out. You know, I just died, but it is very hard for them to hit you if you stay at the bottom of the screen. So watch out for that boss. It's a very easy one. Just stay at the bottom of the screen. You have no problem. All right, anyways, yeah, I was talking about lives. You want to make sure you are building up as many points as possible for as many mistakes as possible. This game makes it really easy for you to make mistake after mistake after mistake, causing you to lose multiple lives. It is really annoying. When you get killed, you actually lose a portion of your gun energy, and then you have weaker weapons, right? So it's harder for you to stay alive with the weaker weapons, and then you die again, and then you get even weaker weapons. So it's really annoying, and it's very useful to have multiple lives for the obvious reasons, of course. So make sure you're stocking up on lives and getting as many points as possible. Now we are about to come up to the first level's boss. I can't believe I talked through that entire level, but I did have a lot of information I wanted to share. We're about to pull up right over here. I'd recommend that when you get to this boss here, you switch over to the straight shot. It is going to still do damage if you are down below the lip, let's call it the lip of this boss, and you're staying above and below. You're staying out of range of the attacks, and you're still doing damage while you're down here. It is very easy for you to run into this boss here, and you can see I'm getting hit a ton by these annoying attacks that this boss has when it shoots out these shots. But, you know, I still managed to have a successful run during this attempt, so it isn't the end all be all if you have a lot of deaths on the first boss. However, that boss is not the most difficult one. It is honestly very easy to beat. I just had unlucky RNG, and the attack pattern that the boss went with was sort of unfortunate for me. Alright, now it is time for us to start up on level 2. This level is a very frustrating level in my opinion, so I'd personally recommend you take the time to play this level individually and try your best to learn it, so that way you don't find yourself getting frustrated, having to beat level 1 and then failing a ton on level 2 like I had done. But yeah, we're just going to talk about really quickly what to expect in this level. There aren't too many troubling bosses, to be honest. It's really the areas that you find yourself in and the enemies that you have to deal with. This mini boss right here is very easy to deal with, especially if you're using the spread shot that bounces all over the place. Those are slow moving attacks. They're really nothing to worry about, and you're just continuing on and on. There is another mini boss moving forward before you reach the caves, and that one is also very easy if you just stay at the top and make sure you're watching the attacks that they use. So I'm just going to let the gameplay speak for itself at this moment, and I will return once we arrive at the sort of cavernous location. I don't even know if it's a cave. I think it's a cave when we arrive at the area with the rocks. Yeah, there we go. Let's call it that. Alright, now we're in the area with the rocks. What I'd recommend you try your best to get good at is switching your weapons. So try your best to switch from the spread shot to the straight shot very frequently, so that way you can whittle down the enemies in the best way possible. You can see right there it was best for me to use a straight shot, and then I switched over to the spread shot because I knew that these enemies and those asteroids were up there. So really it is more like a case-by-case scenario. It is up to your discretion on how you want to approach situations. You can see the path that I am taking and how I sort of approach all of these enemies. It is very, very easy to take out a large group with the straight shot because it does an area of effect attack. So consider the positives and the negatives with both of these weapons when it comes to the scenarios you find yourself in. So as you can see, I'm sort of using the straight shot to get rid of enemies that are in the way and in the cramped spaces with me. And then once they're taken out, I use the spread shot to get easy damage on the enemies that are outside and above. So that way it bounces around and hits them. And luckily for me, I know this area pretty well, like this entire level pretty well. So when it comes to trouble areas like what is about to come over here, I know what to expect and I know when to be quick. That's why I say it's really important for you to learn the level. You can avoid a lot of frustration by just getting used to what is up next. So right here, this is a problem area for me, or at least it used to be. It is really easy if you just go ahead and destroy that laser droid, whatever you want to call them, really quickly, and then move past all of those ball attacks, because it can be really, really annoying if you have to deal with all of these things flying at you at once, and it's really easy to get past them all. Alright, once you made it to this point right here with this spinning enemy and you take them out, you're essentially at the end of this level right here. And I always die with those enemies. It's really, really annoying. Once this boss shows up, immediately head to the right side of the screen and start blasting at the center of the screen immediately. You can get some really, really easy damage in when it is early on. If you start firing right away, the area of effect of this attack is extremely useful for this second boss. I'd recommend you do that off the bat 100% of the time. And the pattern for this boss is really easy to avoid when the laser isn't there. So if you can get as many hits in as quick as possible before the laser starts being used, that will be great for you. It is just flames that you really got to dodge and time your movements with. It isn't too difficult. The laser is what interrupts me the most 100% of the time. Alright, now we are moving on to the final level, level 3. This level is honestly not too rough, excluding a few parts which we are going to be getting to moving forward. So let's do just that. We are going to talk about the specific areas that gave me trouble, and then there is a ton in this level specifically, and I am not going to be talking through all of it, so I'll be here and there once again in this level. Right off the bat, you can see I'm using the straight shot a ton in this area just because of how much damage it immediately does. And it's just the most useful for getting constant attacks, especially because you're in so many cramped areas when it comes to this level. You can see it's just a ton of areas that are closing in on you and enemies that are coming closer and closer to you. But if you take them out really quickly with that straight shot, it isn't too scary at all if you ask me. You just got to really learn this level as well. Not so much as the second level, as I found this level was much easier to get used to. However, that area right there gave me a ton of trouble when I was learning it initially. And then, one or two areas later on also gave me that same trouble. But as long as you're constantly spamming the straight shot when it comes to specific areas, and you are spamming the spread shot whenever you feel like there are enemies surrounding you rather than in front of you, you'll do pretty well, honestly. When you get to this Tesla coil right here, you got to be prepared. You want to immediately start using the spread shot so it bounces and kills all of the enemies. Normally, if you stay in that hole where I was there, you won't get hit by that third shot, but I just got unlucky and I did get hit. Once the Tesla coil starts showing these beams here, you want to stay in the center and then get ready to rotate around the Tesla coil. So you can see it's starting to shoot at me, but if I just keep rotating around, then the area in front is going to open up as it starts to move deeper in, and then I can get the chance to go behind the barricade and be safe from that Tesla coil. I only got taken out once by it, and that is a pretty good ratio for me. I normally get taken out a ton by it. But once I learned that rotating trick, I started doing so much better in that specific area. Alright, now when it comes to this section here, you just want to make sure you get on the right side of this soldier guy, and then just continue on. He can't attack you if you're on his right side, and the only enemies that come upon you are very easy to deal with if you know what to expect. So I'd highly recommend you watch this portion of the video so that way you're prepared, and you honestly shouldn't have too much trouble. And with all that being said, I'm going to return with commentary in a little bit. I will see you once we get closer to the final boss. Alright, and here is the moment of truth. We are nearing the end of the 3rd level. After these 2 enemies, it is time for the final boss. This boss isn't especially difficult, but it can get really frustrating if you don't know what to expect. So come here with at least 5 lives, and honestly, you should be good. Alright, right off the bat, switch over to your spread shot so that way you are constantly bouncing shots around the area, and get ready for specific attacks. This fire attack is very easy to avoid, especially if you're in the corner. That pink ball attack, very easy to avoid if you ask me. Use your flamethrower as much as you see fit, but remember, if you drop below 75% of your gun meter, then you're going to lose the bouncing shot and you'll just have weaker weapons overall. So use it sparingly and use it when you're in a good position to do so. And then just continue using the bouncer shot and maneuvering away from the enemy's attacks. Those beams are also very easy to avoid. There's only one attack that gives me trouble when it comes to this boss, and I think, no, not even this one, not even that one, not even the laser or electricity. It is sort of like the fire shots, except it's more tracking and homing. You can see I got hit by that laser, but it's no stress. Like, this one was very good for me. The moveset that the boss was using was honestly just perfect. I didn't have to deal with too much trouble. But this right here, these homing sort of lights, I feel like they home on me because they are able to track me down really easy and hit me without much trouble. You can see I get cornered right there. It's very easy for me to get hit by those for some reason. Hopefully you guys don't find yourself in the same situation. And if you saw, when I died, I actually did drop below 75% on my gun meter, and my attack was reduced to the 2nd level of attacks. So it was weaker for that split second, but I collected these cells that I dropped when I died, so I was able to get my gun meter back up and get the bouncers back, which is honestly vital for this boss battle. What I do end up doing at the end is using the flamethrower to finish the boss off, so keep that in your back pocket if you run into a sticky situation. But once this boss is taken out, that is the Lunar Lunatic achievement unlocked. Not too bad if you ask me. I think I performed really well. That is such a tough game mode when it comes to hard, and I hope that I was able to help you out with getting this achievement. So with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. Stick around and subscribe if you did enjoy the content. Drop a like if I was able to help you out and help you unlock this achievement. And I hope to see you in some of my other achievement guides. Take care and have a great day.